we're here. We're back. Put me in my spot. There we go.
Put you in your place.
Yeah. Both of you two on top of me. Okay.
Whoa.
Sorry.
We are not starting the show like that.
It's 2 podcasts in a row.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. It's time for a weekend, people.
Yep.
Lunchtime happy hour. I'm with Blake Fisher, the homeless conservative, Matt Deemer, the host of the Daily Crypto News, as well as the Democratic nominee for Congress to the 7th District of Ohio. Guys, it's that time. Time for a weekend. Who's got their lunchtime cocktail? I got some coffee, and it's almost gone already.
Coca-Cola
Celsius.
on ice.
Oh, yeah. My kid's been drinking that. He likes it.
Had an onion burger at a restaurant where they had, I'm not kidding you, Training Day on in the background. And I was like, hey, could you change the channel? There's horrible violence and full frontal nudity, and my children are, why? I'm like, I'm not a prude, but come on, man. We're trying to enjoy a cheeseburger. I'm not complaining about Eva Longoria or anything, but
cheeseburger and full frontal. I mean,
that's a combo.
It is.
Did you ever hear the Sam Kinison bit about that?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a problem, but
Sam Kinison talked about Dr. Ruth and her parts down there looking like a grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh gosh, no.
Yergs, you are really unsavory in the afternoons, man. What kind of cocktail are you drinking these days?
It's just iced coffee, honestly.
I don't know, man.
Last night, though, you guys got to try this one. Last night, it was salted caramel whiskey.
Oh, I'm into this idea.
Oh, it's dangerous. I think that's part of the reason why I was up till 3 a.m. watching Johnny Carson.
I'm surprised that doesn't put you to sleep. That's what that would do to me, I feel like. But
eventually it did. But yesterday was Matrix's birthday. And
I saw that on your social. Happy birthday, Matrix.
Yeah. So later in the evening, like around dinner time, I hadn't had dinner yet. And he loves pup cups from Dunkin' Donuts. Or I guess it's just Dunkin' now. And I took him to the Dunkin' and I got a nice coffee, and he got a pup cup.
Little pup.
And I think that I think that is that what they are? I think puppuccino is what that's Starbucks.
Yeah, I think they're all, it's just what they give your dog.
Yeah, it's just, and I said it's his birthday, so I got to get him one. And my local Dunkin' charges you for it now.
Yeah.
Well, they know me because I'm a regular with getting them, so they don't do it. But they gave him like this, big 12-ounce cup filled with blueberry glazed munchkins and whipped cream.
Oh, wow.
So he was in his glory. But
there's nothing late stage capitalism about this at all. There's nothing. We're talking about nuclear World War III, nuclear war, scrimmages, homelessness, housing prices, and pup cups. Make sure that we get puppuccinos for our freaking dogs for $5 at Starbucks.
That is a first world problem if I've ever heard of one. But God bless America.
This is beyond first world problem, man. This is next level. Guys,
that's a great point though, because I do feel like we're in this period of time where everyone's complaining about things could never be worse, and it's like, dude,
you're getting cappuccinos for your damn dog
through the Dunkin' drive-through. Yeah, it's like, dude, life is pretty easy. Don't complain.
Yeah, exactly. So coming up today, Trump trial. We can't not talk about that. That finished this week. We now have a jury. I think we have all the alternates, don't we? Or
I need to look at that. We didn't as of yesterday afternoon, but I've not checked since then.
And then the other question is how soon is it going to be before Trump is held in contempt for all the things he's been saying to the media and also on social media when he was blatantly told not to? Mayorkas acquitted of sorts. The Senate, we talked about that offline. There wasn't an acquittal of any sort because there wasn't even the Senate trial, but the Senate voted to say that it was basically BS and the end. So that's done. And then finally, what's going on in the GOP? Two more Republicans are out. One was supposed to be yesterday, but he's extended. But by the end of this year, by the end of this term, that's going to be it. So that lead or that advantage that the Republicans have is even slimmer than what it already was. Plus, Speaker Johnson has elected to not use the nuclear option to change the requirements on what it takes to make a motion to oust him. And now that they're going to vote on aid to, there's 4 different packages now, I think, and so that might be something he regrets later.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. Breaking news on Yahoo News, where everybody should be getting their news. By the way,
for sure.
House approves $95 billion in foreign aid to Ukraine, Israel, and U.S. allies.
All 3 of them? I guess all 4 of them. Did it pass the TikTok one too?
The TikTok did pass. Yes.
Okay.
Is all that 4? The 4th
no,
one?
I'm sorry. It's voting modified measure passed by. Yeah, they did pass. 360 to 58.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so crazy. We're being held hostage by fewer than 60 people in the house.
Really? Well,
did we talk about the TikTok ban here yet?
No.
I think we should. I think we should talk about it. Well, we talked about it a few weeks ago when it was kind of getting kicked around, but now that it's actually passed, and I think it will probably pass the Senate. I think the last thing I saw said they thought it would.
So this is the thing that makes me crazy. Clearly, there's something going on there.
You mean with the minority, or the TikTok thing?
The TikTok thing, that it's owned by China.
Yeah.
And there's the concern that China is using it to gain intelligence on American citizens, probably something along the same lines that Russia already did back in 2016. Why are they not saying what it is? Now, I get the whole need to know. I've spent my life in that.
Right.
But there's got to be some certain level. For example, this police officer is acquitted of shooting so-and-so from excessive force. Why do you not say what the particulars of that case were to make the community of the victim, black, brown, or whoever, realize, okay, our guy was really the bad guy?
Well, I think there's some police union rules in that. I think that cause some of that, specifically the kind of which I think is foolish, because I think it'd be better to not protect the bad ones. I think it'd be better to be like, hey, that guy messed up. Or if he didn't, put exactly why. And now I do think this most recent one, I mean, not that we wanted to go on a tangent on these shootings, but
no, do you see what happens when you don't put that shit out and everybody starts rioting? What's going to happen when all these Gen X kids can't use their TikTok? My kid being one of them.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to come to that. I think that the company, they've got 9 months. They will, and I agree they need to do a better job at and I think they sort of think they have, but they've not really done the PR that they need to say that, look, here's why it's dangerous. Here's some specific examples. The Chinese government has used it to track journalists that were writing anti-China, things. They've used it to find Chinese dissidents, who are in the U.S. So Chinese people that have fled and that are here and they're speaking out against the government. And they've used it to target these people, to find their information, figure out where they are. They busted that Chinese police station in New York a few months ago, sent all those people back. It's this is a real thing. And I think we're not doing a good enough job explaining why it is a threat. And it's not just like the other social media companies either, because Facebook is an American company. And yes, they use all your private data for sure. They're not great with your private data either, but they're not controlling a government. There is a problem. And there's a Supreme Court case that's going to be heard about that. Where did the government have the right to lean on social media companies to tell them to take stuff down?
Is that the Fourth Amendment is not for sale or something like that?
No, it's different than that. This one is more of a First Amendment thing, because what they're saying is that the First Amendment says that the government cannot coerce a private company to censor speech. And so the argument that they're being sued for is that they're claiming the White House and certain intelligence agencies, they're trying to okay, is the line, did they lean on things? Did they say did Facebook and Twitter, did they go along with the censorship stuff and removing certain posts, especially during COVID was when a lot of this happened, because they thought Congress would then regulate them? Like, so was it a tit for tat kind of thing? It wasn't straight up
Right.
like, you remove this or we're going to take away your FCC license. It's not exactly that simple when it comes to a
Right.
private internet company. So that's going to go to the Supreme Court. But this is different than that. This is not censorship. This is like the Chinese government has access to all that data. So I don't have a problem with this, but I also don't think TikTok's going to go away. I think that they will sell the company. Someone's going to buy it.
Elon.
I don't think Elon would, but I do
be an
think
expensive company. That'll be an expensive company. TikTok, it would go for way more than Twitter. Way more.
Oh, no doubt.
So I don't think the average person on TikTok will ever notice anything happened, because what's going to first now, I also think China is going to ramp up the propaganda on it because they've got 9 months to sell it. Well, we're less than 9 months away from the election, and believe you me, the CCP is going to be using that to their advantage for as long as they can in this election. But
look, I think if we get back down to just like the basics of this, is that we don't have fundamental data and privacy protections when it comes to social media in our digital lives.
You're right.
And this is a systemic issue that has permeated into everybody's, day to day for handhelds, cars, wearables, and so on and so forth, that we're just not fixing because we're banning TikTok. And so, yes, I 100% agree. There is, malicious actors, Russia, Iran, North Korea,
Right.
China, and so on and so forth. They're coming here, and they are absolutely using these social medias to manipulate the American psyche. 1,000%. How they're doing it, and I think if the United States government actually told you how they're doing it, would be shocked.
Yeah.
And also it would out them as doing the same shit across the EU and in Russia and China, their damn self. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have basic protections for our personal data and our privacy, and it's a failure of Congress. And I think that no matter what we ban, and however figure we point, we still do not. We're still getting screwed by big tech.
I'm curious what you think would be a good solution for that, because I've read some stuff. I've not dived into like really into the weeds of policy stuff. I just know it's going to be a tricky thing to regulate how private companies, if you agree to give them your data, they do. I mean, I'm just curious.
They already lost the one thing, when you agree to a user agreement.
Yeah.
And it makes you scroll through the user agreement before you can actually click that you agree to it.
Yeah.
That's not good enough anymore, because it was proven in court that nobody, even scrolling through the user agreement, nobody actually reads it. And then they sign that, yes, they agree to it. And it's not counting as an agreement.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of times where everything has to be agreed on. And I also still don't believe that just a simple agreement to use a product that you already bought constitutes as being an agreement. And I think we have to go back to the bare bones of what does our data look like, and what does privacy look like. And we have to enshrine what privacy is and how we can actually take that data back, how we control it, monetize it our damn self, or, and give it away. For example, let me give you a couple of examples. Number one, Roku is rolling out TVs right now that force you to agree to the terms, not disagree, but force you to agree to the terms and conditions, even though, fine, you can scroll through, you could click through, you could read it all, or you're not able to use their product.
Use it. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't, where it's a brick. Yeah, you're right. That's
exactly. So you purchase a product, they update their terms and services maybe after 6 months or so, because they feel that they messed up on something, if it's software or hardware or whatever. They want to force you into arbitration. Me and you are probably watching the same dude that's talking about this, or you're watching the same case, and then they brick your product.
Yeah,
that's not acceptable.
I agree.
Another case, we're coming to from the same dude. We're talking about GM. GM, you get your car, you purchase the car, and then you find out, and then you have your phone in your car. So there's two ways and two avenues of getting you here. One, your car has accelerometers, they have gyroscopes, they have GPS, they have cameras, and they have microphones, all in your car. That data is being sold to companies, Nexus, Lexus, and so on and so forth. They're then being a third-party broker, selling that data to insurance companies, and then figuring out how you drive, where you drive, when you drive, so they can make sure they're adjusting your rates. And they're not adjusting them down, they're adjusting them up.
Right.
If you do not do that,
crazy. Yeah.
If you do not do that with the car, and people are like, well, I just, I can opt out of that. Now you're using your phone. Now Apple CarPlay, if you don't have that, you connect with Apple CarPlay. Your phone is acting as that intermediary, or Google Android, mostly Google Android, because Apple CarPlay actually has their own terms and services. But Google Android is now being that broker of that data, selling that data to that third party to tell you where you're going, how you're driving, and so on and so forth. And so, look, these companies have gotten so far away. It's not about opting in, opting out. It's about making people understand what you need to do with your privacy, and just basically just disallowing companies to do this.
Yeah.
I think I think it's an egregious violation of what purchasing a product looks like.
Yeah, you should be able to opt out of any of that kind of stuff, I think. And that, although I think that the company that does that will benefit. I mean, Apple has kind of done a little bit of that by saying, like, look, we're going to be the privacy people. Like, we're going to let you
Yeah.
control what apps can control, what can access what, and who can. And it certainly closes their ecosystem a little bit. They don't get to make money off selling your data to other people, but they're like, we'd rather not.
They're already a $1 trillion company. I think they're doing
Exactly. They're
fine.
gonna do just fine. And so they made that choice a long time ago, which is funny that they're the ones in, like, antitrust stuff. It's kind of funny to me because it's kind of like, well, they're just making money a different way. They're trying to go, yeah, we think the experience is better if you buy an iPhone with AirPods and you have a car with Apple CarPlay. We think that works well enough for you that you'll enjoy that experience. But yeah, I agree. Like, buying a car should not opt me into having my data sold to people, and buying a TV should not opt in. But really, what the thing is, I think what people don't understand about this model is that it's really what we unfortunately did this at the dawn of the internet, and news and media were kind of the ones responsible for going, like, this is a fun new thing. Let's put all our stuff on the online. And what it did was made everyone expect everything that's good to be free on the internet. And so then when you try to make people pay for it, they go, I don't want to pay for it. Well, these people have to make money somehow. So there is a give or
No,
take there. Like, the
disagree.
you
No,
disagree?
disagree.
But that
I disagree. I disagree. Look,
Go ahead.
they put their stuff online, and they now said they need to make money somehow, and that means they're going to screw you over. That is not the way things work.
no,
Your
no, no,
business
no.
model has to change. No, wait, give me a
Okay,
second
that's
here.
fine. Yeah, yeah.
Give me a second
Go
here.
ahead.
When
You
we
got it.
started the internet, it was P2P, decentralized. We're sharing information, right? Some files share, some chats, and so on and so forth. When we signed up to Facebook, it was, I wanted to find my friends that I didn't see since high school, and we can rap out. There was no intention, no matter what their business model was, that they were going to start saying, like, hey, we're going to sell all of your data to different people. When I use my debit card, I have never thought in a million years, until recently, that Chase Bank is now going to start mining my purchase history so they can target ads to me using Google Analytics. There has been nothing through my head that understands that. There was nothing in my head that understands that they sell pixels. And I'm
Right.
not talking about sections, but individual little pixels that you can't even see in your screen to mine your data of how you are using your stuff, your software, your
Yeah.
internet experience. That was not on our list. So saying that, hey, because they put it on there for free, they have to, yes, you're gonna have to change your business model. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that, like, that. I wasn't equating the two. What I was saying is that I think it led to consumers expecting things for really cheap or free without understanding that the cost of that is their private data. And I think that, because, like, the TV example is a good example. That Roku TV is, like, super duper cheap. You're really, like, it's probably a loss leader for them. They're selling the TV at a loss so they can sell your data for more money than they'd make on the TV. But if you go buy a non-smart TV that's just normal TV, it's going to cost you more money because you are actually paying for the TV, and they got to make all their money in that one lump. And I think most people just don't understand that. And that's kind of like, that is why Apple stuff costs more. Our part of the reason is because they're not making money on the back end that, like, some other things would, or some other apps would. And so I think that it's just, there is a little bit of a weird consumer mindset that needs to change about that, because, yeah, for me, I'm like, I don't want my car tracking what I'm doing and selling that information. I would want to opt out of that, or I'll pay a little bit more money to not have that happen, or whatever. It's like, now, I also don't think we should strong arm people into having to either pay money or use their private data. I wish that private data was a little bit more like
Right.
something that you controlled, and you could say,
Yeah.
you could relinquish it to those companies to say, okay, I'm willing to trade this. I'm willing to say, you give me your free service, I'll give you this data. Because some people don't care about that. Like, for example, on Instagram, I think Instagram actually does a pretty good job with the data they have about me, does show me more relevant apps than most, sorry, not apps, ads than other things, as far as, and I'm okay with that. This ad is relevant to me. I click on the thing, it gives me a service or a product that I didn't know existed, and I buy it. And I'm okay with some of that, but I'm not okay with it selling it to an insurance company and then my insurance raises because, it didn't like the way I was accelerating or something. That is a different level of something
Okay,
that
but what about the time? What about the time when you haven't looked up any particular item? We'll just call it this widget.
Yeah.
Let's call it Aroma by Peter Candles.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. Here we go.
Okay.
Come again.
I'm burning right now.
You haven't gone to aromabypeter.com.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about it. And now guess who shows up?
Yep, in your ads. Now I
And
know
maybe he's not taking ads out, so he won't be up there, but Scented Candles will be.
Yeah. It is more complicated than it just listening to you. Everyone thinks that Instagram's just listening to you. It really isn't, because on iPhone, like iOS, for example, it tells you every time the microphone's being used. And so if that little dot's not orange up at the top, it's not using your microphone. That's a hardware on the chip. You can't bypass it. There's no kind of software workaround.
Right.
But most people don't realize that there are a million other things that are connected. So for example, this has happened with me and my friend. He was looking for a piece of jewelry for Mother's Day, for example, and I worked with him. So Facebook or wherever or Instagram or
I was
whatever.
going to say Facebook. We tested it, and that's exactly what came up.
It knows both of us were on the same work network, and then it knew we were at the same lunch place. So it advertised the same necklace he was going to buy for his wife to me, because it okay, they probably know each other. He's buying that for someone, so maybe his friend would too. And so, it wasn't listening to us. It just knows our IP addresses. It knows where we were. It knows we're friends. It knows we follow each other.
Can be twinsies.
Now, the weirdest one that ever happened to me, we were watching The Office. I don't even watch The Office that much, but my wife loves it. And it was the one where Andy's trying to remember the Kit Kat bar, but he's singing the
that one.
Can't remember Kit Kat bar.
I've never seen it, actually.
So what's crazy is it never says Kit Kat bar. He's trying to figure out, it's like, break me off a piece of that, and he can't ever figure out what the thing is it's advertising. So he's just singing it throughout the episode. And I got a Kit Kat ad on my Instagram the next day. And I was like, okay, we never said it. He never actually said it. He's saying the thing. And I'm trying to figure out, but I'm like, maybe, it's like we were watching that on Peacock or whatever. And maybe that has enough information to know what episode we were on. And it knows we're thinking about Kit Kat. And because it's in that episode,
bro,
it's crazy what they can do with that data.
So I was scrolling Instagram stories just the other day, and it went on to this one band, two bands actually, two totally unrelated. One was like a jazz hip hop sort of band, and I was like, oh, okay, that's dope. And I watched that reel all the way through.
Yeah.
Next one was an Indian, proper Indian, I don't know, cover band or something. And I watched that one because
as in from New Delhi or from Arizona.
New Delhi, proper Indian, and in my Spotify feed was the first thing in my new releases was that band I was singing and an Indian song. Never happened in my life.
But it's because you were on Instagram, and if your Instagram's connected to your Facebook and your Facebook's connected to Spotify, all that stuff.
I know how it works. Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's crazy. It's so.
There are advantages to that, right? I mean, sometimes, when it recommends a band that you might like, you like that.
Did you download the song?
No.
Yeah.
Did you at least go buy some curry?
Yes.
Maybe that was its whole goal.
See? Gotcha.
I'm just kidding. Actually, you know what? We did get no. I'm sorry. We got some paprikash, not mulligatawny. I thought I got mulligatawny, but yeah, no. That's absolutely not cool, guys.
You're right. Most people aren't aware of how that works, and we should have some more transparency in it. And if people want to sell their own data, I think that we should do that. I just can't quite figure out what the mechanism for that is, but I think it would be nice if everyone said, here's my data. I'm willing to sell it to you for whatever use of your app or whatever, but it needs to be more than just, you can't do it if you don't agree.
Yeah, sure, 100%. But let's just can we just all agree that privacy and not selling your data should be the default across the board. It doesn't matter if you opt into Facebook, but if Facebook owns Instagram, they don't get all of that shit.
Well, but I mean, I don't think you can prevent that from happening if people are going because you couldn't.
Yes, you can. You make a law that says privacy is the default.
Yeah, but then those companies are just not going to make a product. Sometimes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here's Blake, the conservative, the homeless. I can see why you're homeless. Trying to weasel out of our Constitution.
No. But
Like, what are you talking about? I don't
different,
care about their product. I care about our privacy.
right? But hold on, the Fourth Amendment does not apply to private companies. It applies to the government.
You're gonna start
No,
calling
but it
you
applies to American citizens.
Right, but it's from the government. It's the protection is from the government. The protection's not from entering into a private
we're
relationship.
gonna start calling you Blake DeSantis.
No, but I'm a little no, I lean libertarian in some of this stuff. Not everything, because I mean I think that there's some stuff that's libertarian that's a little off the rails. I don't think we can just like decriminalize all drugs and everything will be fine. I think that there's some things I don't agree with. But I mean, in this kind of situation, I think that you mentioned that your kids would probably freak out if TikTok got banned and all of a sudden
Yeah.
TikTok doesn't work anymore. But because they don't understand what's happening there. But you're either gonna have to pay for that service. Basically, if something's free, you are the product. That's really the thing that everyone needs to understand. If you are using a service and it doesn't cost you anything monetarily, it's costing you your privacy data. That's just how everything works on the internet now. And I do think we need to be more clear about what's going on there. But I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, you can't have a service that doesn't have, I guess the law could be that if you're going to do that, you can offer people the privacy thing, but they might have to pay a little bit per month, because that makes sense. Because I can see why
Look.
Facebook would go, our whole thing is built on ads. Like we don't make any money without that.
I don't know, man. It seems like, again, I hate that thing is like privacy from the government, but and then we're trying to make this distinction that we live in the United States, the government can't do it, but we just have this like workaround, which I think we have a lot when it comes to lobbying, corporate, money into politics, that and freedom of speech and actually that's a good one. Freedom of speech and the workaround about suppression of freedom of speech. And I think as a conservative, you should be happy or more attuned to this, is when you're censoring people on, say, the platforms back in the day to what we have now. And the workaround isn't saying the government just censors it. They say we are a third party or a company that says, hey, we have these terms of services and you're violating our terms of services. So therefore we can censor certain speech. Now that's where I start to go like, hey, I understand like it's from the government, but if the government is finding a workaround to violate our constitutional rights through corporate companies and their interests, that's where we have a problem. So I think that there's a definite distinction between saying like, hey, the Fourth Amendment and the government, and that's actually from the government. That's what that means. No, that means, I think that now should mean that we are American citizens and that applies to all of us outside of corporations, government, and all of this. The default is privacy. The default is freedom of speech. And just because you're a private company or a corporation, you can't start just like infringing on that. I think that is where we have a
right. And I think where the distinction is for me is that the Constitution, like First Amendment and Fourth Amendment specifically, are protections from the government censoring speech and the government invading your privacy.
Search and seizure.
Nice. Yeah. So I think, like, for example, Twitter had the right. They have the right to shadow ban people. They have the right to censor. Now, I wish Twitter, and this is obviously, I'm not really even on Twitter anymore, or X, I guess we're supposed to call it now. But the whole argument was, the whole argument was,
Elon Musk. Yeah. It's Twitter.
The argument was that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I'm like, no, they're allowed to do it legally, but I wish they had a culture of free speech, because I wish we had a culture where we protected people's privacies. That's not really the case. I wish people could do that and figure out a way.
But we do have a culture, and that's the thing. It's not being upheld by the government because we're allowed to go around that culture and the idea of free speech, because now we're going through corporations. And now, so to say that they can do it, sure, you can shadow ban or whatever. However, and some people might say, I might not want all of the free speech aspects of a certain platform, but there is different ways. Instead of, what we're trying to say is we're incentivizing the limitation of speech or the limitation of privacy, instead of allowing these tech and devs and these engineers to work out another solution of either controlling your own algorithm, making sure that there's more privacy controls, making sure there's parental controls, making sure there's filters for certain language or certain content that you want. They can do that. But instead of doing that, we're saying, let's shadow ban. Let's violate your privacy data. Let's do all these other things, because that's what they're wanting it to do. So I don't like using the Constitution as only for the government and it doesn't trickle down to these corporations, because therefore we're getting into this, like, let's just use it as a proxy. And I don't want to use it as a proxy.
Yeah, but just legally, there's no way, if you try to take that to Supreme Court, that they would say that Twitter doesn't have the right to do whatever they want with their private thing, because they are not covered. There is no First Amendment right to be on Twitter. There's no First Amendment right to be. Now there's some arguments about, well, Twitter's now the public square, but it's not like constitutionally that's never held up that someone has said
No.
like that like the telephone is a free speech situation. I mean, they say you can't, obviously it would be a Fourth Amendment thing. They can't tap your telephone without a warrant. Or of course, I mean, 702 unfortunately passed without any more
Depends where you live, yeah.
Kind of depends where you live, I guess. But I think that, but I wish we had more of a culture of that. I feel like with the Constitution specifically, for me, the more I learn about it and the more I go, okay, this is why, like the why behind any of the amendments and things, I think just the more you appreciate it. So it's like, I am more likely to argue with a cop when I get pulled over that's trying to trick me into telling him something, because I'm like, no, you like the onus is on you to prove I've done something wrong. It's not on me to tell you what I did wrong. And it's not because I don't like cops. It's because I know what my rights are and I'm more likely to exercise them if I know what they are. So I wish we talked more about the First Amendment. I wish we talked more about freedom of speech and the Fourth Amendment, because I think the fourth one is getting kind of shredded by a lot of the government stuff, and
well,
it does bother.
Well, I think
a lot of back end stuff is what's really like this thing with foreign expatriates.
Yeah,
that they're going after Matt, who lives in China, by going to his Chinese neighbor.
Yep.
And tapping the conversation of the Chinese neighbor,
right?
Who they happen to know is talking to Matt.
Right.
Their actual target.
Well, and it's not even that complicated. Look at like civil asset forfeiture. I mean, it's like that's happening right here by American police and American people. And it's like, and that's just something that to me seems so plainly against the Fourth Amendment. And yet it's just not, I feel like it's not on people's radar enough to be angry about it.
I think that, okay, so let me make two statements here. First of all, I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree with, we're not evolving a lot of this stuff. You said like tapping your phone. I personally believe that mining your data is the equivalent of tapping your phone. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. If a company's tapping your phone, or the government's tapping your phone, or they're tapping your data, we have now been, it's a different way of getting this information from you. If it's GPS or if it's what you're purchasing or all these other things, I think that that's equivalent in my opinion. And again, that's not the default. The default is we kind of opt in, we opt out. It's a gray area. It's a private company. I think that's complete bullshit.
No, but I'm with you on when the government's buying that data. I'm absolutely against that, which is why I wanted that to pass with the 702 renewal.
But then again, it's like, do we have a standard? Or do we not have a standard? It's like, so if the government's not part of this transaction, then we still are allowed to be taken advantage of by somebody else. That's a corporation. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I think that at a certain point,
sense.
I think where we probably disagree is that I don't believe that we have to protect everyone from themselves. Like it's one thing.
No, but we have basic rights, and we should have basic standards and rights that we adhere to.
Yeah, but I think when people are willing to give, like, if for the $100 cheap TV, they're willing to give that data away.
You said willing. That's why I'm saying there's a default. You said willing, not forced to.
Well, yeah, but you have to buy the more
changing the terms of services after you purchase the item.
No, now that is crazy, and I also don't like that we're like renting movies technically when we buy them, and they can just
there you go.
Yeah,
I don't like any
you
of that.
Love Lewis now, I think, huh?
Yeah, like that drives me crazy too. But it also is like until a competitor.
Apple's always been like that, though. I knew there's stuff that I purchased on iTunes back when it was still called iTunes.
Yeah.
That isn't in my library anymore.
Yep. And that's because the deals they made with the labels said that they could essentially yank that stuff anytime if they wanted to, and you were just renting it temporarily. It's a stupid thing, I agree, but I also don't know. I feel like the best way to solve that is for someone to go like, that's a bad way to do business. We're going to do it a different way and, compete. Because, I mean, none of these companies, everyone always thinks these companies are going to be forever behemoths. And especially in the internet age, it's just never proven to be the case. Facebook right now is the oldest of them. But most people that are younger than us are like, Facebook is for boomers or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're not even on it. So it will slowly.
The kid's not on it.
It'll slowly go the way of that. And we did the same with Sears, like everyone thought that was a monopoly and then Sears gets taken out. I mean, so this happens over and over again. Someone comes in with a better product. And so, but I do wish people were more careful about it because I think they're not realizing how much that's being used in not great ways for them. Like I said, Instagram showing me an ad that's relevant. I like that. Spotify recommending something that I like. That algorithm I'm into, but I'm not into it knowing there's some those algorithms can know a lot about you. TikTok specifically is even more egregious than the other ones, which are all really, really bad. All of them. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, really all of them collect just hoover up data. Gmail, if you have a free Gmail account, it's reading your emails and then sending you advertisements based on the content of those emails. That's what you're signing up for, unfortunately. I don't love that. I don't, that doesn't, I'd rather pay for it.
One more point I have, and this was my second point, is that we keep saying that we got to inform people about what's going on, and people should know the level of sophistication that is needed to understand what's going on. And this is honestly the tip of the iceberg of what we know. The shit that's happening on the back end with the devs and the engineers and the marketing companies and whatever is so deep and so honestly probably sinister that we don't know. So I don't like the idea of let's just educate the populace, because the amount of sophistication that an individual, it's impossible. And then we still put it on the ownership on the individual. And I'm not saying that I want to protect individuals and stuff like that, but to keep saying like, hey, you got to be
come on, Pocahontas.
Say what?
I said, come on, Pocahontas.
Liz Warren.
Liz Warren.
Oh. Don't you ever.
But Matt, I think you're right. I think what you're right about there is that I think that's what we should force. I think we should force the companies to be more transparent about how they use the data, because I think that's actually something you could write into a law. You could say you can't just say we're going to use your data for any purpose we want to. You've got to say sometimes we sell this kind of data, and we do. I think that we need way more transparency about, because that is something that they could regulate, and it could actually be a law, and it would be. I think the tricky thing about it is that Congress is so far behind always on so they're trying to regulate something that's maybe already out of date, because they're they're slow, they're behind, they don't even understand how the internet works. I mean, that we've talked about that Facebook hearing where they were asking, they literally didn't know that they sold ads. And so I think that we've got to fix that, but that would be an easy way to do it, because that would be evergreen. It could say, if you're going to sell your users' private data, you have to be specific about how you do so, because I think that's something that you should have the right to know. Now, if people still want to agree to it and scroll through the thing and hit agree, okay, then that's your fault. But
I'm with you, Blake. Here's what we do: you run for Congress over in Indiana. No, where are you at?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. And I'll be in. We'll meet in Congress. We'll meet in DC, and we'll get this done.
Do you think we could whip people into shape up there?
Or we could just, I don't know,
team up, try to burn
Lunchtime happy hour in the Congress.
I was going to say, you can listen to this. They can become guests on here.
I think the problem is that I'd have to run for Congress for that, and you've got the wherewithal to do so. And I think I think I'd pull all of the hair I have left on my head out,
sir. I don't have the wherewithal to do anything.
Well, you've at least got the gumption to do it, which I appreciate.
The gumption.
Yeah,
yeah. Keep that word alive. Keep that.
Yeah, exactly.
The old one's alive.
All right, back to the actual topics for today. And some of these we can hit real quick. Trump trial. I think it's good that Matt came up with this idea earlier this week that we not make that a major topic for that just touch on it. Here's what happened today or this week.
Nothing really happened anyway.
I mean, we got the whole juror selection out. Some were selected and came back the next day and said, you know what? Yeah, I don't know if this is a good idea. And they got kicked out.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to put to you both quick, do you think he's actually going to be held in contempt? I mean, yesterday he went into court basically mother effing the judge at the beginning of the day.
Do you think he wants to be held in contempt? That's my question.
I don't think he wants to be president.
I think he does.
No, stop.
I think he thinks it helps him.
Stop, Ross.
Who's his vice presidential pick?
Well, we don't have one yet. No, I think he does, because I don't think he really wanted to. I think in 2016 he absolutely did not. I think he thought it'd be fun.
I'm going to tell you a story I probably shouldn't tell because privileged position, but I'm going to tell it anyway. The night that in the moment that he took the lead over Hillary in prospective electoral college votes, Melania got pissed. She didn't want to be first lady.
I can kind of I gather that vibe.
We can tell that.
Well, you're really spilling
his reaction to her was, and I quote from people who were in the room, "Don't worry, we'll never beat Hillary."
Yeah,
Is that who you want as your president?
I think, yeah, but I think the difference is I think no one's gotten in that office and not wanted to stay in it.
Look,
There's something about it, and I'm sure that I'd feel the same way because
you know
Biden.
what it is about it, Blake. You know what it is about it. Everywhere you go, you have 50 cars rolling with you and like 100 squad. I mean, you
Yeah,
rolling deep if you go walking into a club with your
right, and
president.
you got a Diet Coke button in the Oval Office. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, I
You've
would be
got your own. You've got your own SWAT team.
yeah, you've got
I
all. Yeah,
mean,
I'm sure it's hard to give up, but so I think he does like it. I also think it's more of his ego can't admit he lost in 2020. I think that's really more about it. It's
Oh,
really more about
100%.
ego. I don't think he really wants to do the job, and I think that's clear about the way he talks about policy. He doesn't really have an opinion.
Do
Everything
you know
now,
what time he started in the Oval Office every morning?
like 2 in the afternoon. Was it even in the morning?
11:30 in the morning.
Well, it's because he was staying up till 5 a.m. tweeting. It's clearly not a job he actually is interested in, but his ego can't handle the loss. So I think he looks at the trial. I think he looks at the indictments as helping him win the Republican nomination. And I think he thinks the more crap he gets in this trial, so if he can get thrown in jail for contempt, I think he thinks it's a better campaign.
He's trying to be a martyr. That was actually a news story this week.
He absolutely is. So
I
I
agree
think
with
he's
that.
doing this on
Yeah.
purpose. And there's not a lot that I think is I think we play way too many. The right certainly does this. They look way too much into Trump, like he's playing 3D chess. I think he's not. I think he makes decisions quickly in the moment, like most
He's
owners.
shooting marbles.
Yeah, but I think that he's making decisions in the moment, but it's solely based on what he thinks is best for him. And I think right now he thinks what's best for him is to look like this is lawfare and to make it look like this is a witch hunt. And I think that
Yeah.
he realizes if he's going to be stuck in New York having to do this trial for the next month and a half or something, he went to like a bodega the other day. He's clearly trying to make the best of it, but I think he realizes the best thing he could do is get thrown in jail. I think that he thinks that's what's best for him. I do not think that actually convinces the voters that he needs to get to actually win in November. Now, of course, Biden's losing more voters right now than Trump is, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Look,
Do you think that's a fair assessment of Trump's campaign strategy right now?
look, I think let me go back. I don't know about his campaign strategy, and I do think he wants to be a martyr. I think it's good for him. He figured out how to make this the best business he's ever owned.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a crap ton of money. He has a lot of leverage. He has basically cornered not only our government. Cornered our government as of right now, with some loyalty in Congress, putting people on the bench, overturning the leadership of the RNC. His son-in-law is now doing massive deals with Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah, because let's worry about Hunter Biden.
I think they're both really gross.
He got thrown under the bus. He got thrown under the bus for okay, let me take that back. He got banned from Twitter, and then he made Truth Social, and that went public, and now has billions from that. Even no matter if the stock price goes down, he still has billions. So he probably no liquidity, but still,
yeah,
it's he's probably leveraging those shares right now for loans to buy more other stuff or whatever he's doing. This is the best business decision he's ever made. He's not letting this go, and he 100% wants this.
I also think he just wants to be president so he can pardon himself. That's really, I mean, like if we're really boiling down to it, I think
absolutely.
That's all he really cares about. And that's why that's his singular focus. And that's why he can't talk about what his trade policy is going to be really, because he doesn't have
one.
His only thing he's thinking
or energy. Drill, baby, drill.
But what's
How
weird,
take inflation prices down. Drill, baby, drill.
Weird. Trump, the candidate, is worse this time around, I would argue. So this is his third time running for president. I think this has been his worst he's been. But yet he's got the best campaign staff that he has ever had. He's got serious people running the campaign. So it's a weird thing. I don't think I don't think it helps Trump to be the focus. I think both Biden and Trump are so hated right now by most of the country that whoever gets the most press is going to lose. Because basically, if
I agree with that.
You exist,
yes.
But like that's the opposite of every other election that's ever existed in this country. If you normally you are dying for the attention. That's what helped Trump in 2016. He was getting all this free media. He and Hillary both. Honestly, that's really why it really didn't matter what their war chest was. Is they were just getting absolute just metric tons of free media, and that helped propel him. I think this is the opposite this time. If Biden is in the spotlight, it's going to be bad for Biden. If Trump is in the spotlight, it's going to be bad for Trump. And I think Trump is making moves for himself to be in the spotlight. And I think that will be the thing that makes him. Your prediction of Biden winning, I think hinges on that. If we're talking more about Trump for the next 6 months, Biden wins. But if we talk more about Biden, if World War III starts, or if like Biden takes a fall down the stairs or something like that, like then he'll lose. I think that it really is
Yeah,
about who are we
that's a good
talking about
point.
more. And I really don't think it matters what they fundraise. I don't think it really matters what they do other than trying to stay out of the shadows. And that's why neither one of them want to debate each other.
Well, did we all just freeze, or is that?
No, I'm good. I'm here.
No, we just
Yeah,
don't have
wow.
anything to say.
That was. I think that
It's
must have
called
been
a
the smartest thing
lull.
you ever said, Blake, because
Oh gosh, I just like
dumbfounded both of us.
like how do we? I mean, that's such a weird position to be in. Like, how do we? I just don't. It
Yeah.
drives me nuts that that's where
Because
we're at.
we were almost back to normal.
Healthy, robust democracy.
Yeah, we were almost back to normal when we had Trump and Biden being a pick of the lesser of two evils.
Well, or even like I think there was a degree of return to normalcy of the vote for Biden in 2020 for sure. I think that 2016 was obviously a swing away from the normalcy. And I think a bunch of people like, we got a little bit more than we bargained for when we went for that. And so there was kind of this return to it. But now I cannot tell which direction. And it doesn't help that the parties are totally changing at the same moment.
Yes.
Parties had
Yeah.
stayed the same for the last 8 years. I think it'd be easier to calculate. I can't make a prediction because the parties are realigning, and at the same time, these are two incumbent president candidates essentially, and we only have one other example
They
of this
both are. No, that's true.
and so I think it's going to be really hard. I think people are going to post the election in November. Everyone's going to come out and say, "Oh, I knew that would happen." It's like, yeah, we'll put it on paper right now.
Yeah,
But
I did. I did.
yours is given his prediction. I'm just not where I can make one yet. I think the polls are going to be
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not even 2 weeks after January 6th. I was standing on Biden's parade route because we were there for like a whole week,
Right.
securing the whole mall and everything. 15-foot fence, you name it.
Is that like everyone in the Secret Service is in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, we have not only that. I mean, there's like a bare minimum back in the field office for that and the UN meeting every August, September. We had local and state police from every state in the union.
Yeah.
Supporting that as well.
Wow.
Which, I mean, why didn't we see that coming on January 6th? Great question.
We did.
We should
The
have had
National
more.
Guard was sitting 2 miles away.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Capitol Police did not, obviously prepare enough for it. I don't think that they were I'm not blaming them for January 6th. I'm just saying we definitely did not have the right law enforcement on the ground ready for that. I mean, because we all kind of thought it could happen. I think we were all still shocked when it did, but there's definitely a little bit of a failure there. We needed more people there that the president was not in charge of. I mean, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So back to the parade route. I'm standing on the parade route, and I just look at some of the other agents and officers that are standing in this particular intersection that we were assigned to. And I just look at them and I say, he's going to get indicted, isn't he? They knew who I was talking about. In fact, there was like an immediate, like what we did a couple minutes ago, where there was like this,
Who's going
what
to
was said? And then all of a sudden there was like this calm, like he just said that and nobody died.
Right.
And they looked at me and they said, yeah, I think so. Now here's the kicker to that.
I wish we would have right then, though.
Who am I talking about?
Trump.
Of course, we know that now.
Yeah.
In that moment, not 2 weeks after January 6th, we were not talking about Donald Trump. I had not mentioned Donald Trump. I did not say Donald Trump is going to get indicted, isn't he? I said he. And even then, they knew who I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Biden hadn't committed a federal crime at that point for, trying to take over the federal
At that point.
Stage a soft coup. Yeah, I think that's actually the biggest mistake in these prosecutions. I think they should have happened quicker. I think that the fact that all the indictments
100%.
came after he announced for president, it makes them appear to be political, even if they're not. And I think we knew what we needed to know about, for example,
that I don't agree with.
Stuff. Now, maybe not the documents part, but
a proper federal investigation does not happen in minutes.
Right, but I mean, it could have happened in a year or two, and it took 3. I think that's where my problem is that And like, I'm not saying they're to fault. Again, this is not me blaming the FBI. This is not me blaming anyone for Trump's illegal activities. My point is that I think we knew everything we needed to know. I mean, first of all, let's just really talk about who the real bad guys are here. He should have been removed from, like, the Senate should have voted to convict him. That's really like,
Yeah.
that's whose real responsibility it was.
What I found disgusting was when Mitt Romney said, who by the way did vote to convict,
Yeah.
said about how so many of his colleagues came to him and said, I wanted to vote to convict also, but I was afraid for my safety.
Yeah, and that's why we're in such a bad spot.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing there if that's your biggest
Wuss.
concern?
Yeah.
100%.
But I also understand their concern because, their families are getting threatened and stuff, and they didn't sign up for that. So I'm not saying
Then
excuses
do
for
what
behavior.
Marjorie
You're like,
Taylor Greene does when Jimmy Kimmel makes a joke about her and report it to the Capitol Police.
right. Yeah, and that's what I'm sure they do, but it's also funny that the political violence threats were coming from their party. That's the other thing that's really shocking to me, is that
Yeah.
I assume you expect a little bit of it from the opposite, but the fact that Republicans were scared of Republicans, that's who they
But
thought were going to attack them, is crazy.
That's what I say. That's what I say every time some asshat says that this is politicized, that he's weaponized the Justice Department. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
How many of the witnesses testifying against Trump are Democrats?
Also, how many of them are his previous
Zero.
staffers? You know what I mean? Like, not
Yeah,
just Republicans.
exactly.
They're people he hired and have said,
Yeah.
no, I mean, Bill Barr left because he was like, I will not do the illegal thing that you're asking me to do. Like,
Who,
that's
by the
not,
way, now says he's going to vote for him anyway.
was that Barr or is that, I don't think that was Barr. I think that was,
Barr.
is
Bill
Barr?
Barr. Yeah.
Again,
Bill
but
Barr was the one, and Pence said that he's going to vote his conscience.
yeah, I mean, to
And
me,
Pence says that he doesn't like Biden and he's going to vote his conscience.
yeah, we can find all
That's
those.
Jonesing over there. What are you waiting? He's waiting to break in. What are you waiting to say?
I'm not waiting to say anything, man. I just say that there's dysfunction in Congress, that they are just a bunch of wusses, that this is pretty cut and dry, and everybody's leaving that has any kind of gumption. Actually, probably they don't have gumption. That's why they're leaving, and everybody's leaving because they don't want to deal with this stuff. And so you have all the serious legislators or people that actually are, more, I guess, more. What was it? Was it just get shit done kind of guys?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now they're leaving because they're like, if I can't do anything here, if I can't legislate, if I can't be, I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go work as a CEO over here, or be on the board over here, or start my own business, or retire. I mean, if you're a high level producing person, or accomplishing person, you don't want to deal with this. You don't want to deal with this, and it's the same thing in different companies. Like if you go to a company and you're just like hitting ceilings, or if you're not being able to get your input in, you're gonna go somewhere else. And this is what's happening in Congress. And so what would you say, Jurgs, at the beginning of this whole thing is that we have two people leaving Congress. One is who are these guys?
Jake
I forgot.
LaTurner and Mike Gallagher, both Republicans. Jake is from Kansas. Gallagher's from Wisconsin.
And Mike is, and I'm sorry, and LaTurner, he's a young dude. He's 36 years old.
Yeah.
Both
This
are.
is his third
They
year.
both are. Yeah.
Oh, they both are. Oh, okay, so they're young
both
dudes.
young.
They're getting the thing that they want to get. They're like, they got it. They went and said, I'm young. I'm running for Congress. Let's go there. Let's make a difference. And they got there. And they're just like, no way, yo.
And that's because I think there's two kinds of people in Congress now. There's people that take it seriously and want to get stuff done, and then there's another group of people that just want to use it as a platform to become famous and get more power. And that's the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, Matt Gaetz. Yeah. That's the AOCs. That's that crowd. And then on the other crowd, we've got most people who, we're all junkies for this kind of stuff. But the average person can't tell you who Mike Gallagher is. The average person can't tell you who any of the senators that have left are, because they're not the people on TV all the time. And those people, those people want to accomplish things. If they can't accomplish stuff, they're going to go, I'm going to go get a job where I can accomplish things. So,
yeah. But the kicker,
this is a shame.
How long has Mike Gallagher been in for? Do you know?
I think 6 years. I think he's in it because I think he does too. I think he's completed 3 terms. I'm pretty sure.
Because for the House, I think it's 2 terms, and you get a pension.
Oh yeah,
4 years.
I thought it was 6.
I think that's the Senate because that's 1 term.
Oh,
let me check real quick.
Yeah, we can check real quick while you're checking. I'll just say that all of this is just really bad.
Yeah.
All of this is really bad. And the fact that they're still trying to oust Johnson is also really bad because
Yeah,
it's really put
what's
this.
the is that back? Is that back on the table again?
Oh
What's
yeah,
up
now
with
there's
that?
3. There's 3 people backing it
Oh,
now.
who is it? Massey, Green, and who else?
I don't know. I just saw the count. I didn't see who the 3rd person was. I
Was
saw the
it?
headline, but not the.
Hmm.
It's probably
Chip Roy,
it's probably Chip. Yeah, that'd be my guess. I'll
maybe.
try looking up. I mean, but the thing is, like, will Democrats do the same thing? Because Democrats just bailed Johnson out by 165 of them basically voting to change the rules to allow him to do the 4 separate bills that they combine later, and that's never happened. So we talked about this, Matt, and like they did the right thing. Like we said, like if the Democrat now this was a bigger group of Democrats than just like 4 that came across to do something, and it's just a procedural thing. It's not a vote for anything. But I was telling Yergs before we started recording, before you were on, the Breitbart headline is Democrats now control, like Johnson hands over reins of Congress to the Democrats, which is not true at all. Like he just
No.
his conference wasn't going to play ball, and they just said, yeah, we think this stuff is important. And like I said, this is not. It's not a border bill. It's not like I mean, there are fractions of each party that agree and disagree with the support for Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan and stuff. And so it makes sense to separate this out, let people vote their conscience on stuff and we'll go from there. But
They didn't separate it out. That was all one bill together now, right? Wasn't it?
well, so we figured out the confusion. They separated it into 4 bills for the House, but whatever passed was going to get lumped into one bill for the Senate to pass. That was the procedural thing that Democrats basically helped Johnson get over the line so that all those bills could go to the floor because it had overwhelming support to go to the floor. And then it sounds like they all passed. So that's why we were confused between the 1 bill versus the 4 bills. It's because it is split into 4 in the House, but the ones that pass, which it sounds like it's all of them, go to the Senate as one package.
Look, here's the thing, and we said this when we were on a couple of days ago, but I'm gonna say it again: is that not having a speaker would be a absolute disaster right now with everything that's happening geopolitically. Not having a speaker would absolutely be a disaster.
Yep.
And I think and equally so, if the Democrats allow this to happen, where there's a point where there's no speaker, then I think that they're putting the country at risk, our national security at risk, American lives at risk, our military abroad at risk, and we cannot have no speaker. With that said, Biden and his administration really needs to start taking a hard line and stepping up and really start leading because of the dysfunction in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that they are absolutely not. The administration is absolutely not being the strength and the direction that they need to in the time where there is a lot of dysfunction in Congress. And I'm actually disappointed. We'll see what happens in Congress, but I'm also kind of disappointed that there's not a stronger executive branch when we need that as well.
I think it's pretty clear that Biden is better about the back end stuff, although apparently he's not been as good as he used to be. As far as I'm confident that Biden and Johnson have talked about this plan. I'm confident that they worked this out together, and I'm confident that Biden talked to Democrats and said, "You got to make this happen because we've got to get this done." But
it's signed before it gets to the White House.
Right, but it's still a little cowardly because it's like it would be better if you came in. I mean, I get that you're going to do politicking behind the scenes. That's always going to be a part of it. I think that there needs to be some of that. In fact, I think we have a little too much transparency sometimes with Congress. I'm like, I think we should let committees work stuff out without cameras in the room. I'm fine with transcripts, but like I think there is a certain degree of like that making people perform all the time. And I think that's done if we could actually make deals and stuff. But I'm with you, Matt. I really wish Biden would come out and be like, we have to support Israel. We have to support Ukraine. We have to support Taiwan. If you disagree with us, then, deal with it. But like, this is the right thing to do. And make the case why. I'm not going to say people aren't going to disagree with you, but pick a lane, and stick with it. And I think it would give more of his party specifically, not so much Republicans, the permission to also be like, I support the president in what he says, and maybe the calculation is that more Republicans would turn against it. I don't know. I don't know what the calculation is.
Look, I could tell you, running for office, starting the campaign and running for office before the State of the Union was very wishy-washy because there was a lot of rumors going around about Biden and then there's Trump and then there was Congress and then there was the speaker. Like everything was just like, okay, what are you running on? And you're running as a Democrat, and like, what does Democrats stand for? What are we doing? And when Biden actually, he had a solid landing on the State of the Union.
I think so too.
It was solid. And that mean that for all of Democrats and me running for Congress as well, then came out and said, we have a guiding light. We have somebody that
Right.
we understand the marching orders now. We understand how we're looking as a party. We understand what the president is thinking as well. And now we're going out there and we are campaigning with a little bit of more of a footing than we had before. Now we're getting further into this, right? After the State of the Union, and we still need that reinforcement. And we're not getting that. And we're not getting
He's
that as
already kind
Democrats.
of
We're not getting this as a nation.
Yeah,
In
he's
my
already kind
opinion.
of
Those
wishy-washy on the things he said in the State of the Union, which was just a couple months ago.
Exactly.
sleepy
Exactly. And it's
Joe's
just
been
like,
dozing off.
Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, that is a problem, and I think that you think you have a problem, Matt. Imagine being a Republican running for anything right now. There is no platform other than support of
you're
Donald
either
Trump.
for Trump or not for Trump,
That's
bro. And it's hard, dude.
That's it. That's the only litmus test. There is no trade policy. There's no. I mean, and maybe the border is the closest thing to
baby,
it.
drill.
That's it. I mean, which is drill, baby, drill's not a policy. I mean, you can only control that on federal land. We drilled for more
Drill,
oil than
baby,
we ever
drill.
have in the history of the world under Biden.
Bad hombres.
Correct. That's correct. So I've got the answer to our question earlier. Congressmen don't reap their annual salary for life. They do receive generous retirement benefits, though. The Atlantic estimates that when former House Speaker John Boehner, Republican from Ohio, retired, he received an $86,000 annual pension.
No, that's the speaker. I'm sure that's a much
Yeah,
bigger one than like.
Yep.
And Gallagher's
And he's been there for Boehner was there forever, bro.
Yeah, so here comes the rest of that. A senator or representative retirement benefits are based on their plan, age, and how long they served. No member of Congress is eligible for his or her pension unless he or she has served for at least 5 years. To collect their full pensions, congressmen must either be at least 62, be at least 50 with 20 years of service, or have 25 years of service at any age. So there it is.
So
5
Gallagher doesn't get anything because he's younger, or does he just not get it till he's 62?
He doesn't get it
till
till he's 62, but he does have his 5 years in.
Yeah.
Laturner does not.
So then how much did he get when he's 62 then?
A fraction of that.
Yeah, probably 20
Like
grand.
if Boehner, who we all agree has been there almost forever, is going to take home 86 as a speaker, then I would guess probably. And honestly, it makes sense because they're paid just a little bit more than senior agents in the Secret Service.
Yeah.
Like I left at about 160,000 a year. Their starting is I think like 175, and that's what our cap is because we're not authorized to make more than a junior member of Congress.
Y'all do more work though.
Well, that was actually a bill that they authorized and President Obama signed was when we get overtime, we've got guys in the uniform division that made $250,000 because they're doing 80, 90 hours a week.
I mean, if you're protecting the president, you getting paid $250,000. I'm totally cool with that, dude.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
That, in my opinion, is tax money well spent.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, that's it, gang. Matt Deemer from the Daily Crypto News and the Democratic nominee for the 7th District of Ohio for Congress. You can reach him at info@Deemer, DIEMER, for Congress.com. Blake Fisher, host of The Homeless Conservative. You can get him at info@homelessconservative.com. We talked last week about giving you a home here at Yerg's Radio, so we got to continue that conversation too.
I'm getting better about trying to make my shows 1 hour long. That's what that's the goal.
Yeah, I actually listened to the whole episode the other day.
This week?
Yeah, was it Thursday I did that?
I like how you said actually.
Yeah, because everybody says, "Oh yeah, I like your podcast."
Yeah.
Really? I haven't done it in 6 months. Yeah. And I'm Yergs. You can get me at NEWZ@YERGZ.com. That's it, gang. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again next week. Guys, thanks. Well done.
Peace.
And have a great weekend.